What is going on, everybody? We are back. It's another great episode of Liam Picks Fights live. Guys, coming at you on a fight day today. Shout out my man Blake Perry. If you guys didn't see it, did an interview with my man Blake Perry last week. Wanted to share his story with you guys. He is going to be fighting first fight of the night on Bellator tonight. So if you weren't planning on tuning in to the Bellator 278 prelims, you have a great reason to do so. My buddy, my old teammate from Baldwin Wallace Wrestling, Blake Perry, is going to be competing, and win, lose, or draw, he's going to come to scrap. He's a hard worker, one of the hardest workers I've ever met. Great individual, awesome story. So if you guys didn't check out that interview, I encourage you to do so. Go find him as well on social media. Blake MMA 170, I believe. I'm going to double check that and make sure I include it in the description as well. So shout out to my man, Blake Perry. Good luck and good skill to him. Hope he kills it tonight. He's taking on a very tough challenge in Makoa Cooper. No getting around it from a tough fighting family, but I'm hoping my man, Blake Perry, can spring the upset on him. Big plus number by his name. So let's see what Blake Perry can do, and I'm rooting for him always. With that being said, guys, we've got a UFC card that I'm going to touch on briefly, right? I'm going to do a fight day live stream tomorrow as well, moving into a new studio, back and forth a little bit for me, but I wanted to come to you guys. I wanted to make myself available and see, number one, what kind of questions you guys have about this weekend in fighting. There's a lot of fights going on all over the board. Some of them I've done a deep dive on. Some of them I've only skimmed through because, to be honest with you, I have a bunch of stuff that I'm doing in my personal life. I just mentioned I'm moving. You can see some of the elements of the studio are disappearing here behind me, but it's all going towards the new studio. Excited to be coming at you guys more often. Going to be way more accessible, a lot more time to record as well. So really looking forward to that. With that being said, wanted to make myself available this week. It's not the greatest card in the world from the UFC, so I did turn my attention as well towards these Bellator cards and just see if there was any action I could pick off. And I have historically done poorly on Bellator. I just want to say that out front, right? What you see is what you get with me. That's what I believe in. Not the world's best MMA better, but I believe in my work. I do hard work. I take a lot of notes. And I believe in my process. So I try and bring the same skills to bear every week. And some weeks work out better than others, but always you're going to get transparency from me. Wasn't a great outing for me last time. So I'm looking to bounce back here, looking to be a little more selective with the spots as well. So going to talk about some fights here, going to see what you guys have in the chat. I already see some of the regulars filing in. So I'm going to take this sip of water and we're going to get underway. If you guys have thoughts, if you have questions, please go ahead, throw them in the description below. If it's a longer form question, go ahead and drop a comment below this video. But if you want me to address it right now in the chat, fire away. So first up, want to say what's up to my man Jake. He says, what's up? Hey, brother, appreciate you being here. Alex as well, here with the notepad, asks about Guida and Puelles. It's not a normal UFC offering when you're seeing Clay Guida and Claudio Puelles in the co-main event slot. I think we can all agree to that. But what I would also, tend to point out is that this is probably the biggest step up in competition for Claudio Puelles. He's looking across from Clay Guida, the Carpenter. This guy's been around forever, represents wrestling, represents hard work and dedication. Athletic guy, definitely Clay Guida, but not the world's most athletic guy. A lot of heart, toughness, grit, determination that has fueled his fighting career, and it's fueled it into his 40s now. This guy, one of the older lightweights in the division, but still out here doing the damn thing. And I must say, I watched his grappling match with Billy Quarantillo live when it was happening, and I was very impressed at the time. Clay Guida, the man can still move. He can definitely still hold people down from the top position. And I think that Clay Guida has always demonstrated, some real heart, resolve, and toughness. When people wrap up around that neck, yes, we've seen a little bit of, flailing from Clay Guida. But to be honest with you, Claudio Puelles has a strange jiu-jitsu game. There's times when he's able to muscle guys, he's able to throw them around, he's able to out-wrestle them. But when he's struggling to do so, he often opts to pull guard. If he doesn't pull guard, he actually likes to go to turtle position. And that's a position most guys don't like to go to in MMA, period. But there's these kind of guys that, whether you want to call them gimmicky, whether you want to say they're just specialists, but they have these unique jiu-jitsu approaches that can be very effective even in fights that they're losing, and Claudio Puelles, that's kind of the story of his career. He's had fights where he was right on the verge of losing, I think close to, like a 30-26 type of scenario. I'm drawing a blank on the gentleman's name. I'm about to check my notes, but man, I think that Clay Guida, when you look at the guys he's lost to and been submitted by, they are some of the better guys in the sport. They are high-level black belts. Claudio Puelles is a knee bar specialist so far in the UFC. Yes, he's been able to control guys with the body lock. Yes, he's been able to get a couple takedowns with the double leg and the single leg. But I do think that Clay Guida is also going to be able to push a little bit of that wrestling pace. And one of the things that struck me about Puelles on the tape is that he is taking a lot of deep breaths in these fights, especially when people are offering him resistance in the grappling. Thought that there were some IQ failures in the Gritzmacher fight, although admittedly betting on Gritzmacher, which I did, was a poor bet in that spot. And so that's why I ultimately didn't get to the window here with Guida. I think that sometimes age is overplayed in MMA, but there are certain things that I like to take as indicators, and fighters over the age of 38, a little more likely to be knocked out. And I bet on Leo Santos round 1. I bet on him to win by knockout in round 1. I bet on him to win by submission in round 1. And, I had every exposure to Leo Santos you could possibly imagine against Clay Guida. And Clay Guida showed some heart, some toughness, some durability. I thought the fight was, over. I thought the fight should have been stopped. But either way, he was able to recover and come back and fight his way through some adversity. And I don't know that I've seen as much of that from Claudio Puelles. He's definitely been able to do it, but not really against higher level guys in the UFC. He had a couple gimme matchups, the Marcos Marianos of the world. And even in that fight, Lando Vanatta, one fight before, had submitted this guy easily with a Kimura in the first round. Puelles had several attempts. He wasn't able to get the Kimura off. He wasn't able to get a couple other submission attempts off on Mariano. So I do have some reason to believe that he's making improvements. I think his striking could be the difference maker here on the Claudio Puelles side. I don't think that, Guida's striking is anything to write home about. I think that the Marco Madsen fight wasn't a great look for him. I bet on him in the spot, but I thought that he could have tried to push the wrestling pace a little bit more there and try and tire Madsen out. So, yeah, it's a really tricky fight. At the end of the day, I could see either guy winning. Puelles, if you're betting on his side, you're betting into a big age gap. That's something that a lot of people like to do for long-term EV. But on the Guida side, you're kind of trying to get that, vet lesson. And a lot of times we can find opportunities to cash on these vets. But for me, there's no plus money angle really. I'm going to tune over to bestfightodds.com and make sure I'm not speaking silly here, but I don't believe there's significant plus money in either direction yet. Neither one of these men can be had at plus money. Best you could do is even money on Claudio Puelles on 5 dimes. So really, I think that, Guida at, 35, this is probably a little bit more of a, known quantity, what you're going to get from Clay Guida. I think now it's liable. He drops off the cliff at any time. But so far, what I've seen makes me think that he could survive in the wrestling here, survive in the grappling, push a pace, and make it a competitive decision. I think this does have a greasy decision written all over it. Neither one of these guys really puts a huge stamp on it. I think Guida could take over the fight late, certainly. But, man, for me, it's a tricky fight to read. I think it's a deserved pick'em, so I'm not going to be planting a flag on either side. I wish both guys best of luck. Cheers to him. It's probably going to be hell of a lot of wrestling. So bring your shoes and your headgear, folks. It's going to be a good one. Other fights that people want to talk about, throw them in the chat. Try and get to them as quick as I can. I'm going to be heading to the casino to bet some Bellator tonight as well. Let's see. Why can't we see round 3 Macy and round 1, says Bilal's Beak. And man, I don't know. That's a good question. A lot of fighters kind of deal with that, though. They're slow starters. They can't really get it going. They need to get hit in the face a couple times to wake up. I think that that's interesting. I think when I think about, oh my goodness, gun to head, I don't understand the question here, Alex. Gun to head, what? But I think. If you mean gun to head on the Guida matchup, I would take Guida, but I'm not betting it. That being said, Jake is asking about the Candasco fight. Should touch on that one as well. I think that Candasco, from what I saw, he wasn't fighting a very high level of competition, but he was placed in a couple interesting spots on the card. And he was fighting, another Russian in Russia. I think it was the first time that ever happened in the UFC. So kind of a weird tenor and tempo to that fight. I think that this is, an opportunity for him. Dwight Grant's a lot older here. He does have the UFC experience under his belt. He's fought a couple of good guys, but I don't know. For me, Dwight Grant, he doesn't throw very much volume. He's never really set himself apart in any of his fights. He fights a lot of close fights. Even the Daniel Rodriguez fight, guys, he had him on Dream Street and punched himself out in like 2 minutes. Like he was completely gassed out. And then Daniel Rodriguez landed one left hook when he stood up to his feet. And the fight is like borderline over. It's like that for me was a huge red flag on the Dwight Grant side. So I think Candasco, he's no prize. Honda, as they like to call him, he's not the world's best fighter from what we've seen on tape, but he's the much younger guy. He's at a good camp. I think he could be making improvements fight over fight. For all those reasons, I'd have to take Candasco. And the only thing that's kept me off playing it is just that the line has been so stationary everywhere. Like, no, it's like this is the one fight on the card nobody's betting on at all because Dwight Grant has been bet down to this price, and now the numbers just staying the same. So that for me is interesting. But yeah, I think if I had to play that fight, I would play the Honda side, probably on the money line. Maybe look at fight goes the distance. Both those guys kind of fight close, greasy fights. But I will say Candasco did drop the first guy he fought in the UFC with nice combinations. When he started to get flowing a little bit on the feet. I think if that happens here, that would be cool to see. Candasco sort of let his hands go, let his game go. He's got that kickboxing background. He's the younger guy and he's got way more experience. That's an angle I tend to look at as well. I like Candasco to get the job done there, but admittedly, I haven't bet the fight, so it's not an opinion I have skin in the game on. My man Kyle ROONEY says, Liam, you're the man. Love your content, brother. Appreciate you big time. This is my motive, brother. People like you appreciate you big time. I got my man Jake says FanDuel has Candasco -110 forever, and that sketched me out. Yeah, man, I kind of feel the same way. Maybe there's some smart guys on the other end, or maybe everybody's feeling the same way we are, and they're just sketched out by the line staying the same. He's going to ice him or win a clear decision, and we're all going to be sitting here with our hands in our pockets wondering why we didn't put our money down. But I don't know, man. It's a tricky one, so I don't want to get too invested there. A guy who's been away for a while, don't really know what to expect, in all honesty. The data points aren't recent. And, you want to think he's been making improvements, but some people, don't get better in their time away. So it's just something to keep in the back of our mind. Nick also says, what's good, boys? Nick, appreciate you being here. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Missed my man Raw Torque before and Cage IQ. Guida, first ballot Hall of Famer. Shout out Guida. I'd have to think about that more, but man, I'm not going to argue with you. Every time I burp in jiu-jitsu class, I blame it on Clay Guida, and I say I get inspired by him. He is the endless wonder, as my man Cage says here. So any other fights that you guys want to hit on? I'm going to try and get to a couple more here. Probably going to go a little south of 30 minutes here on the live stream. But like I mentioned, I'm going to try and go live again tomorrow. And if you guys have questions about the Bellator fights as well, please feel free to ask about that. While I have you guys here, I did write an article about the main event. And I will share some of my thoughts about the main event. But if you want to get a free pick that I'm going to be putting out, it's going to be coming out through my friends at Scores and Odds. I will be retweeting and posting out that article when the link is available for you guys. But do have a free play in there for the public. And I have bet it myself for 3 units. So I think that basically a lot of narratives about this fight. A lot of people saying that Lemos early, Andrade late, and sometimes that's the dynamic of these fights. And I think that what's interesting about the fight, and the reason why you're seeing Andrade as a significant favorite here, is because you look at Jessica Andrade and she has some early finishing equity. You know, she's finished girls early on in the UFC. She's knocked girls out in the first round in her recent fights, right? We've seen her do this to Calvillo. We've seen her do this to Caitlin Chukagian as well. So, you know, these kind of examples are fresh in people's mind. And I think it's fair that she could definitely go out there and hit her and hurt her early. Jessica Andrade does carry a lot of power. But I think that Amanda Lemos is the smoother operator early, but she throws everything with 100% commitment. And that's not really sustainable. So you see a lot of fighters that fight like this, you know, kind of taper out over the course of 3 rounds. And then over 5 rounds, they really have a hard time holding up. There's open questions here. You know, we haven't really seen a lot of 5-round footage to take in on the Lemos side. So you don't want to draw too many conclusions about data points you haven't seen. But what we have seen is she's gone to draws. She's lost, you know, some fights. She's went to close competitive decisions. These are some of the things that make you think, man, maybe there is a cardio deficit. Maybe there are some red flags here. Maybe the style isn't conducive to a 5-round fight with somebody like Jessica Andrade. But the style dynamic is really interesting here because you have on the one hand, you know, what could be considered a stylistic nightmare, right? Jessica Andrade, how has she lost in the UFC? Well, I could think of one example where she got absolutely busted up by Valentina Shevchenko, one of the only southpaws that she fought in the UFC. Now, granted, that was a grappling-based performance out of Valentina, and it was mostly based on strength and size. Still, it was an impressive performance, and it was something where we saw a powerhouse, you know, that's a little bit bigger than her get some success, both grappling and standing in Valentina Shevchenko. And we see that Lemos does have some physical advantages here. She's going to be a little bit taller. She's going to be a little bit longer. But she probably doesn't have the same kind of grappling and wrestling and jiu-jitsu chops that we see on the other side here. And so for me, that opens up several different avenues to look at for this fight. You know, I think that Lemos round 1, in terms of ways to play her, is not a bad way to play her. You look at the vast majority of her wins, they've come in the very first round. It's not like we haven't seen Jessica Andrade flatlined in the first round, right? You know, I think a lot of it had to do with context, circumstance, flying to China right after another title fight that she had, fighting Weili Zhang in China. You know, kind of just got punished early, caught cold early on in the fight. But still, you know, this is that kind of same stylistic matchup. However, Jessica Andrade truly has been like a money printing factory for me over time, where I feel like, you know, she gets underrated a bit by the market. You know, I talk about certain market indicators that I like to look at. How is your expected win rate, your average odds compared to your actual win rate? You know, are you exceeding people's expectations or are you underperforming? It's a question I like to ask. And Jessica Andrade has over exceeded people's expectations of her, especially as a favorite. You know, she's one of these fighters where it's actually magnified significantly as a favorite, where as an underdog, she's been a poor bet, you know, historically. I believe she's 1-4 as a underdog for a negative ROI. If you bet her as a favorite, however, she's like 12-3 and produce a very solid, very respectable ROI in that favorite position. So that's the reason why you're seeing more steam, I believe, come in on her side here later in the week. I think people are going to talk about the cardio concerns from Lemos. I think my man James, you know, Lucrative MMA, I feature him on my channel. You know, we talk about these fights, and Amanda Lemos, one of his, you know, favorite fighters, but it's not to say he just blindly backs her at the window every time. But he did have an insight that I share, and I think it's an important one to share with you guys, which is, you know, people talk about Amanda Lemos, you know, only having this power early. I think it's much more likely that she finishes in the first round than any other round, right? But I have seen her still carry some power late, you know, and I have seen her hit and hurt girls in the third round. She did finish somebody that she had went to a draw with previously. And to be honest, the officiating for that fight where she went to a draw is really questionable. In my opinion, she was stood up at weird times. Like there was like 3 or 4 weird things. There was a point deduction. Granted, it's in a foreign language. I couldn't understand it. So maybe if I could understand everything they were saying, I would understand the point deduction. But truth be told, I just think that there was some weird officiating going on in the first fight. Second fight looked okay. And this is just a huge step up in competition. And I think that sometimes we overrate what a step up in competition will look like. But I also think that when I see Jessica Andrade, her ability to muscle bigger fighters and lift them up and slam them, it does make me think that she's going to be able to have some wrestling and grappling success. She started martial arts at a much younger age. She has a lower center of gravity, and I think that Andrade has, really high level grappling in this division. I've been looking at her Instagram. Recently, she's been competing at some IBJJF tournaments at the black belt level, I believe in Las Vegas, won the tournaments, getting some submissions. I think she did part of her camp exclusively at a jiu-jitsu gym in Las Vegas as well. So I think that there's a lot to like about her ability to finish the fight late. I think she could do so by TKO. I think she could do so by submission. She has recorded submissions in the UFC. She lists her favorite submission as a rear naked choke. What's to say Amanda Lemos, who has been taken down before, who has been controlled and taken down regionally. I think that there is some reason to believe Jessica Andrade could find that path to victory. I think she's a smart fighter. I think she'll know that that's a good path to victory. But I also think that that's scary right there. The dogs are barking literally at my house here. So that is definitely going to be a concern here as I break down the fact that I think Jessica Andrade wins the fight. But I do think Jessica Andrade wins the fight. I think more often than not, she gets it done inside the distance. But I think either one of these ladies has a chance to finish. I don't want to disrespect the Amanda Lemos side here. I think she's a talented fighter. I just think that we have another instance of a younger fighter with more experience. I just think I like that angle long term. And I think that Jessica Andrade here at 30 years old is still primed for a run in the strawweight division. If you go back and watch that Rose Namajunas fight, the second one that she had, are you saying you'd favor Rose over 5 rounds for sure? It's like that's certainly an open question. She was really beating her up there. I thought that there was a good case for a draw in that fight. And I do think that Jessica Andrade, if she fights a smart game plan, she could beat a lot of girls in the strawweight division. She's very strong. She's very physical. She's hard to deal with. She has rare power. And so I do think that Amanda Lemos can match her in the power department, which is what makes this an interesting stylistic dynamic. In addition, she's a little bit longer, a little bit faster early. That could pay dividends for her. But if it doesn't, you don't want to be getting tired with somebody like Jessica Andrade throwing heat at you, coming after you, walking you down, taking you down, picking you up, slamming you every which way but loose. And so for all those reasons, I'm going to have to favor Jessica Andrade to win the main event on Saturday night. And I think that it should be a hell of a fight. I think that Amanda Lemos is going to bring it early. I think she might have to survive a scare, but I do think that she's going to come out the other side. And I think that she might be calling for title shots, riding that wave of momentum from one weight class to another and taking on, a hot up and coming prospect. I think that's always a good idea to build your career. We saw it work for Derek Lewis earlier this year against Chris Daukaus. Curtis Blades replicated the strategy as well. So I think that, this is the kind of matchup that the UFC might be building here. Jessica Andrade come back down, get a win over, a respectable hype contender, and maybe we throw you back in for the title shot. I think that would be fair play. So let's see how it goes. It should be a great fight. And, if you guys have any other questions, any other comments, concerns, I realize now because my brain works in circles that I did not finish my thoughts on the Macy Barber fight at all. I had started saying that, Macy Barber might be one of those classic slow starters that we see. And I don't know why that is, but I don't like to back fighters that are like that. I think she does give up the first round at a pretty high clip. That's concerning. I think on top of that, Montana De La Rosa has shown me a lot in her recent fights that she's making improvements in her wrestling, her grappling, her striking, and her process. She's not the most fleet of foot fighter. She's a little bit heavy on her feet. She's a little bit plodding at times, but she tries to make the most of her skills. And so she will throw teep kicks to the body. She will pick her shots. She will try and hit like a drive-by punch and get out of range by running right past you. She kind of operates in tricky ways. And I think that that's going to make her live in this spot. I don't think Maycee Barber's an exceptional operator. I don't think she's very technical or process oriented. I think a lot of what she does is bully girls with physicality and presence. Not to say that she doesn't have techniques or that she's not, trying to refine her game. But I think a lot of what she does is brute forward with confidence, swinging heavies, and she's got power in these women's divisions. So it gives her a chance to win the fight, but I don't know, man. I'm not completely sold on the Maycee Barber side. I thought she lost her last fight. I think that, Miranda Maverick kind of made some tactical errors there. I think that somebody like Montana De La Rosa, whether she pulls it off or not, is going to try to put herself in a position to succeed. I think she's going to try and use her striking to set up body lock takedowns. I think she's going to try and level change, mix up the game a little bit. I saw her execute multiple kinds of takedowns at multiple levels of the body. And I think that those are the kind of things you'll need to do to take down Maycee Barber. I don't think she's going to give you the first one necessarily, but if you continue to mix it up, what I loved about her was the angle changes. A lot of people, I like the body lock in particular. It's one of my favorite moves. It's one of my go-tos. And, she was doing a lot of the right things. She was pulling her in and trying to make her opponent have heavy weight in her shoulders. So that way she would be top heavy and fall over. But she was doing a good job keeping her balance with the feet. So what Montana did was subtle direction change, subtle direction change, subtle direction change until she fell over. That was good stuff. That's just smart wrestling. And a lot of people don't do that. People in the UFC want to cheat the finish. They want to use their muscles. So they'll grab a hold of you and then just try and lift you with everything in them. And then they're gassed 3 minutes later and like gasping for air. But that's not the most like technically sound way to take somebody down. And it's not very tactically efficient either. So I think that we see some tactical efficiency on the Montana De La Rosa side. And what I also saw was her ground and pound shots. She makes them count. She's not throwing these pitter patter shots. She's trying to pick shots where she has a clean lane, clean opportunity, throw some good work. And she likes to look for those elbows, man. She really brutalized, Ariane Lipsky's face. She had swelling all over, like real bad, like here, all over the place, man. And on top of that, she got into the mount position and punished her. And a lot of people in MMA can't keep the mount. It's like, it's just an epidemic. People get to the mount and they get bucked right off the position. She was not getting bucked. She was keeping a good center of gravity. She was keeping a good base, a lot of pressure. And I think that if she's able to get on top of Maycee Barber, it's not outside the realm of possibility that she wins this fight inside the distance. But ultimately, I'm just going to play the Montana De La Rosa money line. I'm not going to get cute here. It's plus 160. I like that angle. I got in a little bit earlier in the week at the plus 163, at the plus 161. I like it. So I'm on the Montana side here. Maycee Barber, she's cost me in the past. But hey, let's see if she can do it again. And I actually did have her in her last fight. But I admit I robbed you guys. If you guys were on the other side, you were on the right side, and I robbed you. Shout out to my man Bo Miller, friend of the show, keeping it real in the comments section. Appreciate you, brother. Trying my best, man. Trying to keep up with you. These smart guys out here making dollars, betting on this great sport we have. Dennis says, "What about Cameron Else? Do you think he gets the finish? What info can you give us from Parsons and Elder?" You know what? I like to take assiduous notes. If you guys know anything about me, I like to take a lot of notes. I did not take notes on the Elder fight, but I did watch basically every Elder fight I could get my hands on. And I think he's a pretty good fighter. I think like among guys that come to the UFC, there's a lot of worse fighters that have come to the UFC than this Elder kid. I think that he's got a decent, well put together game. It's nothing exceptional. I kind of liken him to, the cut rate, cheap version of Michael Chandler. And I believe they're training partners at Sanford MMA. That was hysterical to me because that's exactly what he strikes me as. He likes to throw that left hook. He likes to throw the probing right hand. He'll switch stances a bit. He likes to sway his way into range. He has some defensive head movement built into his combination. So it's not like he's just going to throw and leave his head on the center line like Claudio Puelles, with all due respect. He does a lot more movement based combination. So he'll throw that hook and the straight and roll underneath. And he's been fighting not very good fighters. There's no other way around it. You look at the guy's records, if you wiki cap this fight, Elder's going to look bad on paper. And this is a step up in competition, certainly. He's fighting in the UFC. These guys aren't going to be, Midwest regional contenders. It's not going to be that kind of business. But I do think that this guy's been put in a position to succeed. I think that he's kind of been built up the right way here. He's got, the right guys in the gym to push him, to give him those good looks, to get him better. I think he's pushed himself towards improvements. I think that he's shown better products from when I watch. I like to watch guys, if I can, from their first fight up to the present. It doesn't get to happen every time, but this guy doesn't have all that many fights. So I watched a bunch of his amateur fights. I watched a bunch of his professional fights. I think he's getting better fight over fight. He's a young kid. Concerns here, he's on short notice. However, he had a fight booked already that was supposed to take place in 2 weeks. So, he's just getting his fight moved up. In addition, it's going to be a little more pressure. This is going to be in the UFC. However, if you watch this guy's fights, he was in pretty high pressure situations, as I would consider it, right? He's out there in front of huge crowds that are all cheering his name. He was like the main event for these shows, and a lot of pressure on his back. A lot of the shows were built around him. No wonder they got these cans in there. They wanted to make sure this guy freaking wins. They had a big investment in him. And I think that, he's got an opportunity to win this fight. Like, Daniel Rodriguez is a good fighter, but he puts himself on the line. Dwight Grant, who we've mentioned at earlier points in this show, he put him on skates too. Like, he had him really rocked. Daniel Rodriguez is a little hittable. The difference is he's just durable as all get out. So you can hit him, you can hurt him, but Dwight Grant just punched himself out, got completely tired in that fight, and didn't have anything left to offer. So I do think that, I don't know as much about the Parsons side here, but I did like everything I saw from Elder. And so, I kind of thought the line was going to run on Elder, to be honest. And I did get involved, a small play here, haven't tracked it yet because, now I'm seeing plus money numbers by his name. So I want to see how high this will climb. I'm going to be going on the Elder side here. I think he's going to be faster on the feet. I think he's going to be able to move in and out. I think he could finish this fight potentially. I think he could win a decision here. But ultimately, I think that when I've seen him in compromised positions, when I saw him in the LFA with a guy who wrestled at University of Wisconsin and has a jiu-jitsu background on his back, he was able to easily control hands, turn and face, get back out. He seems explosive. He seems well coached. I like everything I saw from him so far. So, yeah, I like that this is going to plus money, and I think that that's a side I'm going to be involved on. Granted, it's a limited information fight. Came together on short notice. Short notice guys don't have a great track record in the UFC, full disclosure. I like this kid. I think he's got a decent chance, and I think he could win inside the distance. So, yeah, I like Elder, and I'm excited to see how he progresses from here. And I think at 155, he can really make an impact. He's definitely he's going to be very small at 170 long term, but I think it's a winnable fight for him. He does have experience at 170. He does have experience at 165. I think those are important things to keep in mind about him. He's not just, some spring chicken going for the first time to 170. He's been fighting at 45 and it's not like that. He's a big enough kid, and he's muscular. So I don't think he's just going to get bullied around, muscled in the clinch. It could happen. He is taking a step up in competition here, but I've also seen him dig underhooks and a bunch of other smart things that you want to see from a fighter. So I think that he's got promise, and I like the potential for his game. My man Big Show Picks says, "What's up, Liam?" Got to shout out my man Big Show. I was in the PFL stream the other day and literally couldn't find my microphone, so I was listening to the boys. Cheers to them. Had a great time. Everybody check out Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. We do a live watch along during the fights. Always have a wonderful time. And the dogs are barking here once again, so hopefully that bodes well for my man Elder. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to have to wrap it here. Just over 30 minutes. Shout out to my man, B. Rizzle. Says, what's your thought on Grant Neal, Christian Edwards? Did not tape it, my brother. I'm so sorry. Got no thoughts there. Don't want to steer you wrong. In terms of my Bellator looks tonight for Bellator, I did end up on a couple of sides here. I am on, oh my goodness, Liz Carmouche. You can get her at plus 130 on Unibet. Guys, this number is crashing market wide. It has been bet down to minus 110 on Bet Online. And I think that this is, if you can get Unibet at plus 130, if you can get FanDuel at plus 124, I think you're getting the best of it. I think that that's a good number. Liz Carmouche opened at the plus 120 tag here, and I think that she has a path to win the fight. She's strong. She should have a grappling advantage here. She's got good takedowns, and she's been showing her better form recently in Bellator. So that was the side I like tonight. I like my man Blake Perry to get it done as a plus 700, plus 800. I don't give a shit. He's my boy for life. So I got a ticket with Blake Perry's name on it. And I don't care if it's win, lose, or draw. I'm going back to the well with my man next time because that's my boy for life. So it's Team Blake Perry. It's Team Baldwin Wallace Wrestling, jacket tough mentality. That's what we're bringing to Hawaii tonight. But in terms of a public enough bet now that I feel comfortable sharing, I've already got down some action on it. The number has started to come down a bit here. But I like the patchy mix side. For Bellator tomorrow. I believe that Kyoji Horiguchi is a great fighter, but I do think that, he's got a lot of time in the game. He's been knocked out in 2 of his 3 most recent fights, and he's got a very difficult challenge in front of him in patchy mix. I've talked about it with Aljo a couple weeks ago. I'm going to talk about it with patchy mix now. This guy is a very high-level back taker. He's got high-level jiu-jitsu. He's a very strong guy physically. You can go look up pictures of him standing next to Corey Sandhagen. He makes Corey look very frail. I don't think he's long for this 135-pound division. Kyoji Horiguchi, on the other hand, he's like 5'6". He's very small for the division, or 5'5", I think. Like he's not very big. He used to be a 125-pound fighter. I do think he's a solid fighter. And shout out to my man, BigShow Picks says, I've been reading The Logic of Sports Betting by Ed Miller. Readers are leaders, my friends. Check out my man, BigShow Picks, because he's a smart guy and he's reading a great book. I hope you guys do the same. Smarten up yourselves and sharpen up yourselves. Read as much as you can. Readers are leaders. Note takers are money makers. That's what my old wrestling coach used to say, no takers or money makers. Jamie Gibbs. I think that's a great line. And, hopefully it pays dividends as well for my man, Blake Perry. So shout out to him once again. Shout out to each and every one of you guys who showed up here on very, very short notice. I appreciate all you guys tremendously. Shout out to random Malakas who says smart wrestling. Yes. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for smart wrestling from Blake Perry. We're looking for smart wrestling from Montana De La Rosa. We're looking for smart wrestling from Patchy Damn Mix. And I'm just excited for these fights, guys. I think it's going to be a great weekend. I think it's going to be a great couple cards. And I hope that you guys have had as much fun in this conversation as I have. I always learn something from you guys. So thank you guys all for contributing in the chat. If you have comments, if you have thoughts, if you have questions, if you have concerns, drop them below in the comments section. Drop a like for the kid. I'm always here trying to put out this content no matter what I got going on. Even though I'm trying to keep a lot of my capping, under the wraps during the week, I like to try and get it out to you guys before these fights so you have a chance. If you want to roll with me, if you want to fade me, God bless you. It would have made you money last week. I hope it would make you, a negative ROI this week because I'm coming for the bookmakers. I'm excited. I'm fired up, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys who has my back and supports me. So big blessings to you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the replay like my man Evan L. If you missed the live stream, and if you have any other questions, find me on Twitter at LiamPicksFights. You can go ahead and reach out to me there. I get a lot of correspondence. I try and get back to everybody as quickly as I possibly can. So if you reach out to me, just know I truly appreciate it, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. So thank you guys for your interest. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your concern. God bless you all. I hope you enjoy the fights. I hope you had a lot of fun. Come back next week. We're going to have all the same fun again. And come back tomorrow morning because we're going to do a quick fight day live stream before we go live on Pub Sports Radio. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.